the fractions. So maybe let's start small and say definitely if you have a half being 1 over 2, and you plus it with another half being 1 over 2, what we know is that half a loaf plus half a loaf equals 1 loaf. So half plus half is equals to 1. So we need to follow math calculations to prove that indeed 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 equals to 1. You can still punch it on your calculator, it will give you 1. So there are two ways in which you can work it out. Maybe let me just show you what I used to do so that I know what the final answer should look like. So what I would do is just to have that long fraction there, and I take this, I multiply it with that. I just multiply the denominators. So it's like you're having 2 times 2, which is 4. Then what you do is to cross multiply that 2 cross to multiply that 1. So it's like 2 times 1, which is 2. The sign, you just write the sign that you are given. Then this 2, it crosses to multiply that 1, which is 2. Then already I know that this plus that definitely is going to be 4. Then you divide it by that 4, and then this is how you get your final answer being equals to 1. So another way in which they can teach you in class, it will just depend on which method works for you. So they may say, you see that 2, they multiplied with that 2. So it's like you have 2 multiplying that 2. Again, you cross multiply. 2 times 1, it will definitely be 2. The sign that you were originally given is a plus. Then on this side, you still rewrite those spaces multiplying each other. Then you still cross multiply this 2, cross multiplies that 1, it becomes 2. And then now you end up having 2 over 4, and then plus 2 over 4. Now that the denominators are the same, then you just write one denominator, and then you've got that numerator that you plus it with that numerator. Then it ends up being 4 over 4, which is equals to 1. So I'm not really sure in terms of which method would work for you, but maybe let me just show you that one, because I'm going to be testing you on your final answer, which means whatever fraction that you may be given, what I'm interested in is knowing if your final answer is wrong or correct. In terms of the method, you will just verify which one they teach in class or which one is easy for you, if they are both acceptable by your teacher. So let us say again you are given this being, let's say example number 2, 1 over y, and let us plus it with maybe 2 over, let's say, k. So according to what I said, you just have that big fraction there, and then this multiplying that. You can write it as yk or you can write it as ky. It doesn't really matter that much, but for me I always follow the alphabetical order. So between y and k, which letter comes first? I think it's k. If it's k, then I will write it as ky. Then what you do, this k, it cross multiplies that, then it multiplies that, then you end up having invisible 1k. Then this y cross multiplies that. In terms of the sign in between, you were given a positive sign, that's why I'm writing positive sign there. Then you have that invisible 1 there multiplying that 2, it becomes 2, and then the letter, it is y. And that is the end of it. Something that you should never see yourself doing, it is to now cancel this with that. You can't do that because you have a sign of a plus or a minus at the top, or you have 2 terms at the top. Again, that means you can't say this cancels with that, because same reason, you've got 2 terms at the top. So you only cancel if you have 1 term at the top and 1 term at the bottom. Maybe as we continue, there might be an example. that will cover that. Maybe because it may not be easy to derive such, let's say for example you have k minus let's say 2k, maybe this is divided by ky. So you have two terms at the top, you have one term at the bottom. You can't cancel as yet, but at the top you can take out something as a common factor, which is k, because it's there and it's also there. So you take it out. What remains now, remember you have invisible 1 there. That is why you remain with 1 there. The sign is minus, then you have 2 there. Remember, I'm just giving this as an example. Then over, you have your ky there. So you see, the whole of this is a term. So that means you have one term and then you have one term. That's the only time you can cancel this with that. And then what remains at the top is 1 minus 2, at the bottom is y. Definitely this minus that, you find that it gives you negative y. And negative 1, I meant to say over y, and that is the end of it. So let's maybe look at another example and say you are given 2 minus, it could be 3 over, let's say, x. All that you know is that you are dealing with the fractions. If you are therefore given something which is not a fraction, you will somehow have to convert it into a fraction, where you can just divide by 1. Why would you divide it by 1? Just so that it makes it easier for you to work it out in that way, where you say this multiplies with that, it becomes 1 multiplying x, not just x but invisible 1x. It's like 1 multiplies 1, it is 1, and then letter is x. Then you cross multiply, this x cross to multiply 2, it becomes 2x. Then you've got this one cross multiplies that, it becomes minus 3. Looks like you can't take out a common factor, therefore that is the end of it. So that's how you would work it out when you have such fractions. It doesn't end there. You may also be given, let's say, 20 minus 1 over, it could be, maybe let me use y there. You still follow the same principle where you convert that into a fraction so that it will be easy. If you use this method, then it's like you will say this times that, it becomes 1y, and then what you do, this cross multiplies that, it becomes 20y. The sign that you were given is a minus. Again, you said that denominator multiplying that denominator, which is y, and then that one cross multiplies that to become 1 times 1, which is just a 1. Then you have the same basis, then you just write it as one base. At the top you have that 20y, where you minus that 1, and that should be the end of it. Not that much complicated. You just need to make sure that everything follows the correct math process. I'm not really sure if there might be another type of a fraction that I'm not including. Maybe let me include this one. Let's say now you have, what will be the example number? Now I forgot. 2, 3, then it means this one is example number 4. This would be example number 5, where you have negative, let's say, y over 2, and then we plus it with let's say 3. Yes, what did I say? You need to force that other one to be a fraction. So that means you can just divide it by 1. You will always divide it by 1 if you are forcing it to be a fraction. You therefore rewrite this in a way that will make it less complicated. Think of it as you having negative 2 plus 4. Negative 2 plus 4 is the same as positive 4 minus 2, because you still have your negative 2 there, you still have your positive 4, even though the positive invisible, there's the same thing. So even here, what I'm saying is you can rewrite it as positive 3 over 1, where you minus that y over 2. Then now you can deal with it nicely, where you say the denominators, they multiply each other, and then you cross multiply. You say that 2 cross multiplies that 3, it will definitely be 6, and then this cross multiplies that. The sign you were given is minus, and then you have invisible 1y. And this looks like is the end of it. Let's do one more, which is supposed to be difficult, even though it's not necessarily difficult or complicated. Let's see. It's just you dealing with the negatives. Let's say you have negative, it could be 2 over k. Doesn't really matter that much. And then let's minus again, and then let's say 1 over let's say a, letter A. Okay, so that means in this case, again, what I said is that at the moment you have that, you can just multiply that by that. Between A and K, which one comes first is A. Then I'll write A, K. Then this cross multiplies that. So it cross multiplies negative 2. That is why it will be negative 2. A. It's like you are having negative 2 multiplying that that invisible 1. So again, this one cross multiplies that. It already has a negative 1 multiplying that invisible 1. It's like 1 times 1. Then there is minus 1 times 1 is 1k. Then you do have your invisible 1 there, and then you just write your k. Then that should be the end of it. You just need to remember that you cannot cancel this with that because you have 2 terms as your numerator. You can't cancel this with that because you have your numerator having 2 terms there. And that should be the end of